Hello, my music-loving friends. For this craft, you are going to need paper. You can use all white paper if that's what you got. If you have any sort of construction paper or fun fancy paper, you might want to use some of that also. So have both of those on hand. You will need scissors. You will need markers for decorating, and I've just chosen these colors. Whatever colors you have or whichever colors you prefer, you can use those. And I have one black marker so that when I just want to write words or something, I have something just nice and dark to write with. You are also going to need some glue. All right, now if you've ever made a fortune teller or cootie catcher, then the first part of this video is going to look really familiar to you. But stay tuned because I have figured out how to put an additional secret pocket into the fortune teller so we can put a little bit more information in there. So let me clear my space off, put all my supplies off to the side, and then I'm going to talk you through how to make a fortune teller. So we take our piece of paper and we start with it portrait. So this is portrait. And this is landscape. We are starting portrait. And then we're going to take our paper and we're going to fold it from the top right corner down. I suppose if you're left-handed, you could do it the other way. The important part is to fold it from the corner straight down so that then this edge lines up with the other edge behind it. And then we're going to crease that nice and hard. Now, because I like to have my creases really firm, I'm going to use the handle of my scissors to press that crease down. There we go. Now once I have this like this, I actually want to get rid of this piece. Now some of y'all know a little shortcut that involves folding it and maybe licking the edge of it and ripping it off. But again, I like a really neat line. So I am going to use my scissors for that. So I'm cutting right along the edge. And then I'm going to set that little piece aside. That's a little piece of scratch paper for you. We won't need that for the rest of this craft. Okay, and now I have something that looks like this. So now I take that and turn it so I can fold it in this direction. And again, I'm going to use the handle of my scissors to make a really nice crease there. Oh man, I didn't line my corners up perfectly on top. You know what that means? Absolutely nothing. There is no such thing as perfection in crafting. All right, so now we have this awesome diamond with some lines on it, and those lines are gonna guide us in how to fold the other folds. So I like to start with the bottom. So I'm taking the bottom part of my diamond and folding it up so that this corner touches the intersection of those lines, the place where they all come together. And then I'm gonna crease that. And I'm gonna wait and do my hard creases all at the end, just so I don't have to keep picking up my scissors. And then I'm gonna turn it and I'm gonna fold the opposite corner. I like to do opposites. There we go. And then I'm gonna fold it again, this next corner, folding it up to the middle. And then I'm going to fold it again up from here. Okay. So now that I have all of those folds in place, I'm turning it over. And this is a good time to crease all of those lines nice and firmly. All right, so now I have something that looks like this. So now I actually want to do the same thing that I just did, but in reverse. So all of the little folds are facing down. I'm going to make it into a diamond again. And then I'm going to fold my corners up to that middle intersection again, just like I did before. Make a nice crease there, a nice crease there, and a nice crease there. If I'm going too fast for you, you can always pause this video and do it in your own time. That is the beauty of video, my friends. All right. So there, now I have that, and of course I want to make all of my creases nice and firm. So now I have this, and I want to flip it over so that I'm looking at what looks like 4 squares here. And to make it so that it's possible to use my fortune teller, I'm going to fold it in half this way, and I'm going to crease that center line. I'm going to use my scissors again to press it down, and then I'm going to open it up, turn it this way, fold it, and crease the other way. All right. So now we have this basic fortune teller, and let me show you how you open this up. You take it and you kind of hold it so you can see where the top opens up here, and then grab these corners and push together. You see how it opens up? And now all the corners are together, and then I grab it in one hand, and I find the little tabs at the bottom, and I open them up one at a time. Okay. And now I have my basic fortune teller. Okay, now here is where the top secret information comes in. We need to make another one of these. Now you have a couple of options at this point because we want our crafts to look pretty, don't we? So either you're going to use another piece of blank paper and eventually decorate, or if you happen to have some fancy paper, maybe you have some construction paper, or maybe you have something fancy like this, you're going to use some other kind of paper, if you have it, to make your next fortune teller. We're just going to make another one like we just did. If all you have is white paper, well, that just gives you the opportunity to do a bunch of drawing and stuff later. Okay, so let's make our next fortune teller the same way that we did before. So I'm setting this one aside. And then I'm folding, I'm putting it like this. I'm putting the interesting part down, actually. And then I'm folding from corner to corner. Strangely enough, my paper is square. My interesting paper is square. But if it weren't, I would have a little tab here, and I would cut, 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 cut. And then I make my hard crease. And then I open it up, turn it this way, fold it back again, make my crease, make it firm. And again, I know I'm going kind of fast because I don't want this video to be super long, but you can always pause it and do this at your own pace. Okay. Now I'm opening it up, and again, I'm looking at the white side right now. So it doesn't have a lot of decoration on the inside, but that's because I'm going to fold it up so that I can see the colorful side. So then I fold it this way. If you're using construction paper and both sides are colorful, that's also fine. That's not gonna make your craft not work or something. All right. So there we go. You know what? I started creasing every line with the scissors. Man, I'm gonna have to pick my scissors up a bunch of times here. All right. Okay, so now I've got my first set of folds down. Okay, so now that I've got that, I'm turning it over, and I'm doing it again. Fold to the center, mash, mash, mash. Flip it, fold to the center, mash, mash, mash. Do that with all 4 of them. Make sure you pause the video if that was too fast. Okay, and now I want to mash all those with the scissors handle to make sure I have really solid creases. Ooh, you can see the sun coming in through my window now. That's nice. All right. So now, this is where the magic happens, my friends. So we actually don't need to fold this one up into the kind of cootie catcher format. We have our regular fortune teller, and we have our colorful one. And if you just made another one that's white, that's totally fine. You can decorate that in just a moment. You'll see where it's gonna go in your fortune teller in just a moment. Let's actually open this one back up. So I'm laying it flat, and then I'm gonna open up like one little tab of it for now. Now when I open this one, you can see there's a little triangle of folded paper here, and it's kind of the same size as that one, isn't it? So what I want to do is turn this, and you see where this line is right here, this fold line? I'm going to cut just above that. Watch your fingers while you're cutting. So I'm cutting that off of my other fortune teller, and then I'm going to turn it so that these little folds are facing up, because I want to be able to open it once it's glued down. And then that's going to get glued in to this tab right here. Okay, so I'm going to do that so you can see what that looks like. Okay, when you are, so I have my folds here, and here's the flat side with no cuts or folds in it. When you are gluing, you do not need a ton of glue, and if you use a ton of glue, your project's not going to look as good in the end. So I like to put just a little bit along the edges, and I even like to flatten that out with my finger. So it'll be nice and smooth when I put it down. Okay, so now I'm putting that right in here. And now my fortune teller has a secret pocket. Look at that. And it opens up. Oh, I mashed it a little too hard. A little bit of rearranging to be done. There we go. Okay. And I'm going to repeat that for all of these tabs. So I fold this one up. I take my creative looking one. Cut, cut, cut. Make sure I know where the fold is, because I want that to open. Flip that over. Add some glue to the edges. Smooth that out. And then stick it on to the other one. You notice that I'm opening up that fold when I mash it down. I just think it's easier to get it to mash down. Sometimes you have to be careful that you don't move it around too much. But again, it doesn't need to be perfect. It's just a craft. All right, so we do the other two. Open this up. Cut above the fold. Make sure I know where my opening is. Little bit of glue. There we go. Stick that one down. Okay. And then final side. I'm not cutting right on the fold for these. Remember, I'm trying to cut a little bit below the fold, and that one actually I cut a little bit too much on the fold, and so I'm trimming a little bit off because I think my project will look neater at the end. All right, finding my opening here, putting a little bit of glue on. There we go. All right. And then sticking that one down. You do want to make sure with this one, because you're going to be folding it back up, that you haven't gotten any extra glue kind of around where you meant to, because you'll glue the whole thing shut. That won't work very well. So now I'm kind of checking to make sure that I didn't put glue where I don't want it. Okay. And now I have this awesome looking fortune teller. Now, if you did this with all white paper, then now is your time to do some decorating on these tabs. So you can see how mine looks, and I just used other like creative kind of paper. You could have used any kind of color paper you want or plain paper, but now would be the time to draw some pictures or do some coloring on those. This would be a good time to pause the video and do that if you're deciding to go that route. Okay. So now that we have this, we are going to draw some things in the fortune teller. If you're watching this particular video, you are probably either in your school orchestra learning one of the orchestra instruments, or you're taking private lessons on one of those instruments. And this will give you an opportunity to practice some things related to that. So we are going to start with closing this up. And you see I have my marker in my hand because we're going to be doing some writing. And I'm folding everything up as carefully as I can so I don't accidentally crease those little things on the inside. And then I'm turning it over so that I have all these little squares facing me. And then I want it to be diamond oriented. Okay? Now the first thing we're doing is we're making a little spelling exercise for ourselves because, you know, you want to be able to spell the name of your instrument. So on this top diamond, we're going to go in what we call score order, which is how your instruments would be listed on the score that your teacher or your conductor is using. And the first instrument that would come up for the strings is violin, spelled V-I-O-L-I-N, like this. Okay? And then the next instrument that comes up in that score order is viola. V-I-O-L-A. The viola, if you're studying violin and you're not sure what the difference is, the viola is slightly bigger, and instead of having an E string, it has a low C string. It is still held up on your collarbone, just like the violin. It has a deeper sound to it. Okay, then we get to the next instrument. This one is so big and so deep sounding. This one is held down on the floor. It is, of course, the cello. Now, cello is pronounced like it has a CH, but it is not spelled that way. It's spelled C-E-L-L-O. It's an Italian word, and they use a little bit of a different spelling for that ch sound. C-E-L-L-O. And we have one more instrument for the strings in an orchestra, and that's the bass. B-A-S-S, which actually is also how you spell the name of the fish, a bass, but it's pronounced bass in this case. It's a homonym, meaning it's the same name, as in it's the same word, but it's pronounced differently. It means something else, so that's the bass. So we have violin, viola, cello, bass. Okay, so that is going to become a little spelling exercise for you. So now we are going to turn our fortune teller over, and if you look at it, you actually have 8 sections here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Let's turn it so it looks square right now. And in this little part, we are going to be drawing note values, because when you're first learning how to read music, you have to be able to decode how long you're supposed to be playing each note, okay? So I'm going to go in order of how these things are often presented to us in orchestra. So when you are beginning, it really depends on the method book, but one of the more common ones that we start with is called the quarter note. And the quarter note has a head and a stem on it, okay? The head of the note is this kind of circle ball looking part, and the stem is the stick coming off of it. A quarter note gets 1 beat, all right? Then the next value up from that would be a half note. And the half note is like a circle. I know I didn't draw a perfect circle, but that's okay. Our craft doesn't have to be perfect. And it's got a stem off it. And this is a 2-beat note. All right. Now there's another one that you might encounter. One of the songs that I frequently teach is called French folk song. And it's got this kind of note where we want to know how to draw a 3-beat note. Well, 3-beat note looks a lot like a half note, but it has a dot next to it. like that. So we have a quarter note that's 1 beat, a half note that's 2 beats, and a dotted half note that's 3 beats. Okay, so the next kind of note that we come to, if we're going up in values, is the whole note. And the whole note is a 4-beat note. It's just a circle, there's no stem on it, that's it. Okay? Now I'm gonna kind of go backwards, so let's rotate back this way. Now in string playing, a lot of teachers actually start with faster notes because it's frequently easier to get a nice solid sound out of your instrument when you're moving the bow faster. So there's a kind of note called an eighth note. And an eighth notes are often paired together like this. So we need 2 note heads. Each of them gets a stem, and now we have this thing that's called a beam that connects them. And this would be 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. Okay? And then there's another kind of note called a 16th note, and those are often grouped in 4s. All right? And because they are grouped in 4s, you can tell they're probably going to go faster. And instead of just having 1 beam, it has another beam. 1 E and a, 2 E and a, 3 E and a, 4 E and a. Okay, so now what we're going to do is we're going to group some of those together so that you can practice reading them the way that some of your teachers will be showing you them in your orchestra class. So for any instrument, in beginning orchestra, we frequently use a rhythm called either good D, stop, stop, or pepperoni pizza, or Mississippi hot dog. And that can be presented a number of different ways, but I'm going to present it the way that I see it in a lot of different books, where we have a group of eighth notes, like this. And you'll notice that just like this one, there's only 1 beam connecting them. So it's actually the same kind of note. It's all about how many beams are connecting. 1 and 2 and 3, 4. So here we have a group of eighth notes and some quarter notes. Good D, stop, stop. Pepperoni pizza, Mississippi hot dog. Those are all different ways of saying that same rhythm. And then another one that your teacher might be teaching you goes like this. So go ahead and copy this as soon as you see what I'm doing. This one, you can see I have a quarter note and then I have 2 eighth notes, and a quarter note and 2 eighth notes. This one, your teacher might say, down pony, up pony. Or maybe they say, grasshopper, grasshopper. Or maybe they even count it out for you. 1, 2, and 3, 4, and. So these are some groups of notes that you might be commonly encountering in a beginning strings class. All right, so I'm setting that down for just a moment. And now we're going to open it up and we're going to draw a whole bunch of staff lines. So if I open the entire thing up, you can see from the way that the light is creating shadow on here, you can really see all of these lines in my fortune teller, right? So again, on the inside, I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 spaces. And we all want to prep our fortune tellers the same way. No matter which instrument you're playing, you are going to draw 5 lines. Okay, so your staff looks like this. So I've drawn 5 lines in that space. And I actually want to do that in all 8 of those spaces. So try to keep up with me, but if you can't, you can always pause the video and come back to it. So here we go. I'm going over to the next space and I'm drawing 5 lines again. Okay, see how I have that arranged? Both of them have 5 lines. I'm going to turn it and I'm going to put 5 lines in each of these little spaces. Just like that. Kind of starts to make an interesting little pattern as you're going around. Let's rotate it and let's put staff lines in there. Okay, that means I only have 2 more left to go. I'm going to turn it and do the same thing there. Things don't necessarily need to line up perfectly with this, because the way that you use the fortune teller, you won't actually have it open like this all the time. And your lines don't need to be perfectly straight, even though I know some of you will want to get out a ruler and make it perfectly straight. It just doesn't need that. Okay, so live with just a little bit of imperfection in your crafts, and you'll actually have a lot more fun making them because you won't spend so much time on the detail work. All right, so those are the things that we all do in common together. All right, so now let's look at violin notation, shall we? So we are going to write the notes of the D major scale, because if you're in an orchestra class, then that's typically the first scale that you would learn if you're in a mixed instrument class. And if you're playing your instrument with a private teacher, it's one of the scales that's going to come up really soon if it's not the first one that you learn. So I actually want you first to draw a treble clef on every single one of those staffs, which means you're going to get 8 shots at drawing this thing. So I'm going to talk you through the first one really carefully, and then on the others I'm going to speed up a little bit. You're always welcome to pause the video if you need more time to do something. When you draw a treble clef, the first little swirl of it circles this second line right here. So I start a spiral just below it, and I go clockwise around until I've gotten all the way around to here. And then I start my line going up this way and back in a candy cane. All right, and then I'm gonna take that and go straight down through my previous work and make a fishing hook at the bottom. Yours does not have to look like mine, nor does it have to be perfect. All right, remember that this is a craft. And so your treble clef, this is an opportunity for you to start practicing drawing your treble clef, but none of them need to look perfect. And I don't want you to going back and erasing things and trying to make it that way. All right, so let's do another one. We're on the next set of staff. Here's that little fold line. So we're gonna spiral around, up, candy cane, down through our work, fishing hook. Okay, let's keep going. Spiral around, up to the right, candy cane back, fishing hook. Next, same thing. You see how mine don't all look identical? That's really okay. I'm gonna be okay with that. All right, here's the next one. And yet another one. If you're not going as fast as I am, remember you're going to pause the video when we get to the end of drawing treble clefs. Okay. Got one more. Okay, so I've drawn now all 8 of mine, and if you're still drawing yours, you are going to pause this video while you finish it, not to make them perfect, but just to get them complete. All right, so let's assume that you have all 8 of them done now. All right, so now we have 8 notes of a D major scale, and we want to write them all in into the right spot. All right, well, that means that the first thing that we need to know is, well, where's the D string? We know that that's how we start a D major scale. I bet your teachers told you that. Well, the D lives all the way at the bottom of the staff. Like it's a little wheel on the bottom of the staff, just rolling it along. Okay, it doesn't go over that bottom line. It's really important to note that, but it is all the way at the bottom underneath the staff. So that's your D. Now, these little tabs up here are to write the information for each note in, all right? And eventually I'm gonna show you how to use this to quiz somebody or to have somebody quiz you. So flip open that tab, write the letter name of the note, which you know is a D because I just told you that. And then in addition to that, we're gonna write how many fingers and on what string. So with this, it's 0 fingers on the D string. Let's hide that answer again, okay? The next note of a D major scale, every time we add a finger to the string, we're going up a line or a space. So if this was underneath the staff, then the next note is gonna go on this bottom line of the staff. Looks like the line is going right through it, doesn't it? Make sure yours looks like that. And then in the secret tab, we're going to write what that one is. Well, I already said that that's your first finger on the D string. So let's put that in first. And every time you add a finger to the string, you're going up a letter in the alphabet. So if you are on your D string and you add one finger, that's called an E. Okay, so now you have the answer there in your secret tab. All right, turning again. We add a finger. That means that we go up to a new note. Now for right now, I'm just going to ask you to memorize, and then your teacher will explain this to you eventually. But this note we're going to call F sharp. When we play the D scale, we call this F sharp, not just F, but sharp. And that's what this little sign is. It's not a hashtag or a number sign. In music, it's called a sharp sign. So up in our secret tab, let's write that down so we don't forget. It's called an F sharp. When we write it with the note, it goes before the note, but when we write it after the letter, it goes after the letter. Okay, and that's 2 fingers on the D string. All right, next note. We go up to the next line. Boom. And what is that? Well, it's got to be third finger because we've already done 0, 1, 2. So if that's 3 on the D, we've also done D, E, F sharp. It's the next letter, so it's a G. All right, closing down that tab. Now, if we were just using the entire alphabet, this next note would be H, wouldn't it? But of course in music, we don't do that. We only use A, B, C, D, E, F, G, and then we go right back around. So this next note goes in the second space, and that is your A string. So let's open the tab. Let's letter it. It's called an A. And it's played with 0 fingers on the A string. Okay? As a little trick for remembering these things, the spaces in treble clef spell face, F-A-C-E. And your A string lives in this space. And just as a little side note, your E string lives in the top. Face, F-A-C-E. Okay, let's go to the next note. We go up to the next line. That means we add a finger and we go up a letter in the alphabet. So if we go up a letter, that makes it a B. If we add a finger, that makes it first finger on the A string. And there we go. That middle line is a B with first finger on the A string. Let's go to the next note. Turning this, we're going to draw in the next space. Remember I said it spells face, right? F-A-C. Well, this one is another one of those sharp notes that you have to memorize. There are only 2 of them in the D scale, so that shouldn't be too hard. So this is a C sharp. So let's write it in. It's called C sharp, and that is played with 2 fingers on the A string. All right, we have 1 left. Now you may know that there are 2 Ds that you play in the D major scale. There's that first one that we started on that was just your open D, but then we play a D that's on the A string. So go ahead and write that in. And then let's draw the note. It's a line up from your last note. So this was a C sharp. Next line up is a D. And that's played with 3 fingers on the A string. And you'll notice that it sounds like your open D if you're playing it in tune, but higher. It's called an octave up if you want to memorize that extra little tidbit. All right, so now we have done all of the writing that we're going to do. Let's cap our markers, and then let's learn how to use this little device here. So I close all of my tabs, and I carefully fold everything so I don't crumple up any of those inside tabs. I can hold it in and fold it down. Hold and fold. Okay, when I have it like this, I fold it thusly, and then I turn it so I can see where that opening is, and then I'm pinching and pushing it together. All right, the more you use your fortune teller, the more pliable it will become and the easier it'll be to use. So now that I've got it pinched like this, I open up this part, and I'm holding those, and I open this and this. All right, so here's how we play with this. The first step is you and the person you're working with, you spell it together. You pick a word and you spell it together. So you say to your friend, pick a word, and they pick violin. And you spell V-I-O-L-I-N. And see, now we're open to this. And now your friend is going to pick one of these rhythms, right? So, oh boy, they're going to pick this one because that looks interesting. So you need to be able to tell them that that's one and, or TT. Depends on how your teacher is teaching that to you, but you need to know that it's an eighth note and how to say it, and that there are two of them. And then together you go one N or TT. However your teacher is teaching that to you, okay? So now that's brought us back to the same place, and maybe your friend picks this one, because what's that little dot? That looks interesting too. So now you say, oh, well, that is a dotted half note. That's got 3 beats, right? Or your friend identifies that. You together figure out that's a 3-beat note, and you go 1, 2, 3. All right? And then you pick one again. They picked this one because it looks interesting, but wait, they're going to do something different this time. You've picked that, so now you open the fortune teller. And then they have to identify that note. All right, well, that note, man, if I think about it, it looks like it's my 3rd finger on the D string, and I think that's called a G. Well, am I right? Ta-da! The answer's right there, and I see that I was correct. And what do you do if you're correct? You guys high-five each other, or you celebrate in some way. And then you play again. And you kind of trade off who's quizzing each other. Now you can use this with anybody. You can have your mom or your dad or your grandma or your grandpa quiz you. You can even try playing with the dog if you want, but I don't think they'll get very many answers right. Happy practicing!